Hi, I'm Mike Richter, and today we're going to be going through the second installment of the What's Your Side Hustle kind of sketch that I've got going on my channel. And today we'll be talking about pizza delivery as an option for a side hustle. So as an overview, we'll talk about pizza delivery as a side hustle, kind of what kind of things are involved in it, and some choices you need to make along the way. We'll talk about some of the basic advantages of doing pizza delivery as a side hustle. Then we'll talk about the number one advantages to why I would recommend this as a good side hustle. And finally, we'll talk about whether you're getting paid tips or gifts. And the important part about it is tips are taxed completely differently from gifts. And we'll get into that later on in the video. And it's very advantageous for you to be considering them gifts. But there's something special you need to do for that to happen. All right, so pizza delivery as a side hustle. Back in 2012, after I bought my first house in San Angelo, Texas, I had spent quite a bit of money on the down payment for the house, as well as handling some of the VA funding fees, because I put very little down, and that house has done very well for us. So as part of replenishing my reserves so that we can be back on stable footing as a family, I went ahead and started delivering pizza for Papa John's here in San Angelo. And for the first couple of weeks, I was getting used to how the whole system worked, and I was still very new to San Angelo at the time. I wasn't too familiar with a lot of the subdivisions, so I really had to learn the city. And since I was looking to invest in real estate in the city as a whole anyway, I really saw the extra advantage of being able to drive around and get used to what neighborhoods I would like to invest in as a side benefit of doing pizza delivery. But after I got used to doing the pizza delivery after a couple of weeks and got the lay of the land and kind of what Papa John's was expecting delivery drivers to do in terms of building rapport, building customer service relationships, and creating a repeat business, those kind of tools added up, and coupling that with good salesmanship, after a while I was making on average $15 to $20 an hour, which is pretty crazy for just delivering pizza, and that worked out very well for me and my family. But the trick is you need to pick your place well. The reason why I picked Papa John's was I knew that their customer demographic typically makes more income than places like Little Caesars and Domino's. So that was one factor that really helped me decide on Papa John's. Papa John's also only had one store in the entire city, whereas Pizza Hut had 4 stores and Domino's had 3 respectively at the time. And don't get me wrong, there was a good option for Domino's and a good option for Pizza Hut in terms of where their delivery radius was, but I chose Papa John's just because it had the coverage of all the best places to be delivering. And that's why I decided on Papa John's at the time. So once I got used to everything, I was making an extra $900 a month before taxes. After taxes, it was $800 a month. And so in 5 months, I saved up $4,000. It was the $4,000 that I put towards the house in San Angelo. So let's talk about some advantages associated with doing pizza delivery as a side hustle. First off, it's fairly low stress work. I mean, I was working about 50 hours a week on my main job, and I worked about 15 hours a week on my side job at Papa John's. And that 15 hours a week went by really quick, and it was low stress work, and it gave me an opportunity to practice my already pretty proficient customer service skills. That advantage alone could be very useful to a lot of people that are just getting started in their financial life. Having excellent customer service skills really helps out in terms of building rapport and getting customers to see more value in what you do. And finally, polished salesmanship tends to lead to better tips and better income overall. And the reason why is if you've got a good positive attitude, people are typically going to be willing to provide more to you as an encouragement. And it's the same way now that I'm on the giving end of tips. If I see somebody that's got an excellent attitude and holds themselves high in regard, I'm going to make sure to reward that and make sure I let them know that it's a gift and not a tip. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a bit. And I would say the best single advantage to doing pizza delivery as a side hustle is that you have a lot of time on your hands, a lot of time in the car going to and from deliveries. And we're going to take advantage of that. So the reason why having that extra time, even though you're going to be driving the whole time, the best thing you can do is turn your car into a university. And how you do that is by downloading podcasts or loading up audiobooks onto your smartphone, or if you've got a CD player, then onto CDs. Something so that the time that you're spending in the car ends up being educational rather than wasted. I mean, of course, you can go ahead and spend some time listening to music, but the more that you're taking that time that you're being paid for anyway and investing it into your improvement, even if you spend half your shift driving, that driving time adds up very quickly. So for example, if you work about 20 hours a week and you drive about half of your shift, it only takes 20 weeks to rack up more class hours than full-time status at a university, assuming a 12-hour student load or course load rather, and a 16-week semester. So since you have all that time on your hands, you may as well use it wisely. So there's plenty of great podcasts and audiobooks for you to listen to, and I'll make recommendations at another time, and I'll make sure to link back to that in this video. So the final thing we'll talk about is whether or not you're getting tips or gifts, and the difference is huge in terms of how they're taxed. Now for tips, if you have over $20 a month in tips for a single employer, you are required to report that as tip income for tax purposes. Now, tips are only taxable for federal income tax purposes, so you don't pay Social Security or Medicare on it. Now, you do pay an additional surcharge on any income above $125,000 if you are married filing separately. If you are filing married jointly, then that amount changes to $250,000, and if you're filing in any other filing status, it's $200,000. But if we are doing pizza delivery as a side hustle, chances are we're not breaking any of those income barriers in terms of regular W-2 income. So for the most part, our tips are only taxed at the federal level for federal tax purposes. Now, your state may differ greatly. I live in Texas, so we don't have a state income tax, so that's really helpful. You want to check with your state tax laws and your tax professional to see how tips are treated in your area. And something to consider though is gifts, not tips. Gifts are not taxable to the recipient. So you may have seen this phenomenon going on over the last 5 to 10 years where people are leaving a little card with their tips at a restaurant and filling out 0 on the tip line, but then leaving a cash gift, and then they leave that card specifying that the amount given is a gift for excellent service. Well, that amount given is not taxable to the employee, which is awesome. That ends up netting you extra money in the long term. So one thing that you can do to translate a tip into a gift is if you get a cash tip when you're delivering a pizza, all you have to do is simply say, "Hey, thanks for the gift. I really appreciate it." And bam, all of a sudden that tip is now a gift. They've given it to you for the same purpose, but instead you're acknowledging a gift as opposed to acknowledging a tip. So because of that little thing, you get to end up keeping a little bit more of that money because it is not taxable when it is a gift. So just as a quick recap, we talked about pizza delivery as a side hustle and how the decisions that you make in terms of where you deliver pizza are very important. You want to make sure that you are delivering in areas which are typically higher income. That way you have you're servicing people with more disposable income who can provide you bigger tips and bigger gifts. We also talked about some of the advantages associated with pizza delivery as a side hustle. The fact that it's fairly low stress, and more than anything else, you have a lot of free time to yourself in the car while you're making deliveries, so that you can make advantage of that time by listening to podcasts or audiobooks, things that are going to help you in the long run. So if you want to learn about business, learn about business. If you want to learn about personal finance, learn about personal finance. If you're still in college, maybe there's a book about whatever class that you're taking at the time. Go ahead and learn more about that given subject. You'd be surprised what kind of audiobooks you can find at your local library, and then just rip the CDs into MP3s and be able to listen to them and really expand your knowledge. Because you have all that time available to you, why not make best use of it? And finally, we talked about the difference and the distinction between tips and gifts, and how anytime you can get a tip as a gift from a satisfied customer, that's much better for you in terms of how it's taxed. It saves you quite a bit of money in the long term. So if you think that pizza delivery might be right for you, if you've got any questions about delivering pizza, by all means, go ahead and put them down in the comments section below. If you felt that this video is valuable in any way to you, by all means, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you think that anybody else could benefit from this, by all means, go ahead and share. If you'd like to see more content from this channel, by all means, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And if you'd like, go ahead and change your notification settings by clicking on the little bell icon next to the subscribe button. And what that does is that gives you the ability to determine how often you get notified of new content. So if you want to see every single piece of new content that comes out from this channel, then let YouTube know, and they'll make sure to send you a reminder every time something comes up in your email. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you have a fantastic day.